Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Voice of Adoptees, which brings together diverse and unique voices from around the world to share their stories. If you like today's episode, remember to give us a like, subscribe, and leave a review. Here's your host, David Shunk.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Voice of Adoptees. I am here this evening with Amanda from Idaho. She is an adoptive mother, and she's going to be coming on our show tonight to talk about the journey and a little bit about her point of view. So welcome, Amanda. It's good to have you.
Thank you. Super excited to be here.
Awesome. So so tell me about yourself, a little about who you are, and so we can get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. Born and raised in North Idaho, a tiny little town called Coeur d'Alene. Met my husband here, his family, he's also born and raised. We're locals, and just grew up in the mountains, camping, fishing, all that good stuff. Yeah, so I have a couple siblings, a big family. We both have big families that are all around here, so that's a big blessing.
That's great. Family is a loving and a blessing, of course, as we know.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us briefly what made you want to adopt?
Yeah, well, adoption has always been on my heart. It's always something that I wanted to pursue, and my husband had felt the same way, and it was something that we knew in the future we wanted to go through. We always pictured that, you had to be, I don't know, more like mature or stable or whatever to adopt, because it seems like this big, huge, scary thing, but it's not. It's a journey, and it's hard, but it's beautiful and redeeming. But we just had this like scary idea, but if you wait for that perfect moment, it's never going to happen. So we were like, you know what, let's go for it. So we prayed about it and really felt like now was the time. And now looking back, it's almost 3 years ago. Oh my gosh, it's almost like 4 years ago now that we started the process. So
Wow.
It's been a journey. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. So when you were during the process of adopting, did you have multiple agencies? How did you, I guess, go about finding the right agency or church program or whatever you used to start the adoption and go through the process? What was like the planning behind all that?
Yeah. Well, we researched a few different agencies. We have friends in the area that went through a certain agency several times. And so we knew that it was a good, trusted agency. And so we looked into their beliefs, their programs, which countries they were, working with. And we knew that that's the agency we wanted to go through. Is Small World was the agency. And researched their countries and felt extremely called and just completely fell in love with Liberia and was like, this is it. Let's do it. So
that's really cool. I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever run into an adoptee from Liberia. So whenever I get the privilege to speak with your daughter, that's going to be amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely. But so that's cool that you found that country. And was that a country that was very popular at the time with the agency, that they were adopting a lot of children from? Or did they give you a couple different, I guess, countries? And I know that's kind of an odd question, but, from an adoptee, my parents, I was from Russia. My parents had, different countries they could really select from if they wanted to. It just happened to be at the time, the agency was pushing Russia really hard. So I'm just curious what, your story was.
Yeah, they weren't pushing any certain country. I mean, every country has different guidelines and an age that you have to be, or, how many years married, or, different little things like that. We qualified for several different countries, but it wasn't one that they were pushing. And we researched very thoroughly, and we just completely, we fell in love with the people, the culture, and just the entire country. It's beautiful. And we got they connected us first with a Facebook group of other families that have adopted. And so we got to hop in there and just ask questions and meet people. And so we became very connected and rooted as well. And so that it ended up, became like another family too.
Wow, that's really cool that you got to have like this instant support group right away, and you're
Yeah.
utilizing technology compared to adoptive parents in the 90s, who are
Right.
struggling with this process alone.
Hmm.
That's really incredible. So, how long did the whole process from start to finish take you guys?
Start to finish, from the moment we submitted the application to, let's say, like the day we returned home from Liberia, it was probably 2.5 years overall.
Wow.
Yeah. And we had been, pursuing a family for over 5 years, trying to have a family. And yeah, 2.5 years in the process as a whole.
Wow. Did you have to take multiple trips overseas, or was it a one and done?
Yeah, we could have taken multiple trips. So we actually ended up getting delayed by the US Embassy over in Liberia. So we were there for 2.5 months.
Oh, wow.
And what they told us was we're more than welcome to go home and wait, but we didn't want to lose that time with our daughter. And it was scary. I mean, we were running out of money, and how are we going to do this? And but the people that we were staying with in Liberia just really took us in as their own and became like another set of parents to us. And they just really took care of us, reassured us. We stayed with them, and we were very blessed, when we thought that things weren't going to work out. Like, my husband thought he was going to have to go home in the middle of it and come back. And we were like, we want at least one of us to stay. So we thought he was going to have to go and I was going to have to stay. And then his work just said, you know what? No, you need to be there. So we'll pay you for this time. And so it was just things like that that came through that, we're like, this is going to be okay. We can stay here. We can continue to bond and grow as a family. So
That definitely sounds like it was a blessing and meant to happen. So
yeah.
that's what it sounds like. That's great. What is the so you mentioned over in Liberia how you talked about this other family, right? That you kind of had an experience with. I'm curious, what's the culture's point of view over there of Americans adopting children?
In our experience, they were very, very welcoming and very excited for the opportunities and just the family that she was getting brought into. Overall, it was nothing but reassuring and welcoming. And the people that we lived with, and it was kind of like a bed and breakfast type place almost that we stayed
Yeah.
at. But they taught me how to make meals. They taught me how to do her hair. They took us around to all the local shops, and so they were just incredibly supportive and very excited for us. So I didn't feel at any point like there was any hesitation or hate towards us at all.
That's that's really special. That's really cool that they were
Yeah.
so welcoming, and I things have changed over the 20 years. Let's put it that way. A lot of Russian adoptees, our parents didn't have that experience, but
Yeah.
it's great that you had yours with Libya very successfully. It sounds like. So, how important to you and your husband was it to keep that birth culture a little bit of your daughter alive? Do you actively try recipes with her from her native country, or a certain language, or certain artwork? I mean, people do different things to try to
Mhm.
show, honor their other side, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, we always want to celebrate the holidays. So this year, since her being home, we've been able to celebrate Liberian Independence Day and Flag Day and different things like that. And then on her Forever Day, so the day that she officially became our daughter, we want to always be able to make a meal. So this year we made it's called cassava leaf, and it was
I have no idea what that is.
it's really good. It's really good. So we always want to make, different meals on these holidays as well, and then incorporate them throughout like our weekly meals. It's harder here to get the ingredients though. So I have to, Seattle is the closest place to be able to find those ingredients. So when we go over there, I pick up a bunch. But yeah, so when we have those ingredients, we'll make meals. And then on our Forever Day, when we were in Liberia, we bought an item for every birthday until she turns 21 from Liberia. So every Forever Day, we'll give her a gift
That
from
is
Liberia. So and as the ages, I'm like, well, I'm not going to give her this huge dress when she's 3 years old. So when it's going to fit her when she's 17. So, just like throughout the years, be able to give her a gift from her
That's
home
that
country.
is so cool. I applaud you so much for doing that. I
It
mean,
was the best advice ever was doing that. When we first started, I was like, yes, I absolutely want to do that. That's perfect. And then journaling through the entire process. So everything that happened, every high, every low, every time when I felt like I was breaking down, or anytime we got an acceptance or a denial, like journaling everything so that someday when she, wants to read through that or has questions, I can show it to her. And I mean, we have that whole process just written down, and every tear and every laugh and everything. So,
that's really special. She's going to
yeah.
cherish that, and she's going to be very thankful that you have that. You have no idea how much, like, from an adoptee's point of view, that makes me feel really, really good. Like, you have, like, thank you for taking that extra step. Really, a lot of adoptees, they didn't have that experience, and your daughter's lucky. I can tell. So I'm really happy for you. So the adoption, I'm trying to think in Libya, right? Is it
Liberia. Yeah.
Liberia? Sorry, not Libya. My
Mm-hmm.
bad. Is it Was it technically a closed adoption? Did you get the names of birth relatives? Kind of talk to us about that a little bit. Like, how much information do you really have?
We don't have a lot. We did have the opportunity to meet and spend time with some of her birth family while we were in Liberia. So a few times we were able to. There was boundaries from, they have, when you go to court, we met with them to say goodbye, and then a couple other times there. But, adoption has to be finalized for the most part to be able to do certain things and meet with them in certain ways. So, but yeah, we did get to spend time with them a little bit, which I'm super grateful for. It is, I wouldn't know how to describe if it's like open or closed adoption, because if we have their contact information, we would be able to reach out, but they live out in a place where they have no phones, they have no internet access, they have nothing. And so there's no way for us to be able to keep in contact.
Oh, okay.
But we do have names. Yeah, we do know her family. Yeah, over there.
So, do you think as she gets older, when she starts to ask questions, how are you going to approach, I guess, her other half? What's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of adoptive parents sometimes are protective of that information, or they're willing to, be there by their side as, they get older. Do you think you're prepared for all that?
As prepared
I,
as
I
you
know, I
would
know that's a
hope
that's a
to be,
loaded question. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's something that we constantly talk about, and we're it's like constant preparation. We want to be able to someday go back to Liberia with her when she's older and when she understands. Obviously, she's only 3 right now, so it would be she wouldn't understand in any capacity, but when she's older and understands, be able to take her there and answer any questions. We want to be as vulnerable as possible with her for her benefit, to know everything and to understand her story and who she is. And there's so much trauma that you don't realize, even as babies. They're
Yeah.
even little babies have trauma that they grow into and have to work through. So yeah, definitely being that open book and complete vulnerable selves with her through all of it.
Yeah, no, it's, you mentioned trauma, and my question is, how much did or if at any point, did the adoption agency, in your opinion, adequately prepare you for the unknown of adopting a child? They kind of educate you and say, you know what, we don't know the full situation. And I mean, I think the best way to put it is my adoptive mom told me, you know, when they were adopting, they didn't really focus on that. Once they said, that's my child, that's my child, and whatever happens to it, we'll deal with it. But this was a different time. They had limited medical history. They didn't
Yeah.
know a lot. But I'm just curious, from your experience so far, do you think you were accurate? Are you prepared enough to deal with the potentially unknown of what might happen?
Hmm. Yeah, I do think that the agency they prepared us as much as they could. They, put us through different classes, sent us to different websites that would have different courses, and lots of books like The Connected Child, if you've ever heard of that book. And then, yeah, plugging us into different support groups and keeping us in close contact with the social worker here that did our home study, and providing different groups through that as well. And I think just the support as a whole, being in these other groups with Liberian families and being surrounded with that, is like a game changer almost. It's that inner circle that just constantly loves and supports, and you can go to with complete vulnerability and just be like, hey, this is what's going on. I need help. I need guidance. What's your advice? And, I do feel like we were incredibly blessed with our agency, the way that they handled situations, because we did not have the easiest process. I know I talk like it was, we had an amazing experience in Liberia, but we also had a very hard and heartbreaking experience as well. But they handled it all well. They provided such amazing support and all the groups, and so I feel like we're as prepared as we could be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like, overall the experience was positive, but I do know about that unfortunate event that happened. So I'll give you an opportunity to, from your words, kind of explain what happened and
Yeah.
how it affected you.
Yeah. So in Liberia, you get matched with children, and we were approved for 2 kids, and we were so excited to have gotten matched right before Christmas with 2 beautiful girls. Our Isla was a twin sister, and when the girls were brought to the orphanage, they were very severely malnourished, and her sister just couldn't recover. So in February, she had passed away in the middle of the night, and we got the call the next day. And so I don't even know how to begin to, I don't know, express my feelings on that. It's heartbreaking. It's crushing. We prepared so much. I put so much together in their room, and sorry, my dog is like,
Oh, that's fine. Don't worry about it. We love pets.
yeah, he knows when I'm sad.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, so we put so much into this home to prepare for them and surprising our families, and I mean, in my heart, these girls were mine, and they're my daughters, and I mean, we lost her, but I'll still love her every day for the rest of my life, and I'll get to meet her again someday. I know that she's healthy and she's safe in Jesus's arms, and we don't hide that from Isla either. She knows who her sister is, but we want to be cautious of that as well, because we don't know how she'll take it. I mean, she in the beginning was, she had her sister, and then she didn't, and then she had us, and so it's hard. We're preparing as much as we can for when the day comes when she has all these questions, or navigating through everything. But our agency handled everything really well. It's still like a constant grieving,
Yeah.
I feel like I watch her play and how she's growing, and then I think about what it would be like to have both of them here.
That's fine. Yeah. No, absolutely. I understand that.
Yeah.
My parents actually told me that during the adoption process with me, they were matched with another child that they were planning to bring home as well. But the adoption fell through because the child suddenly was unavailable, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't know what happened. But my mom said it was practically like having a miscarriage. That's the way she said it, and said, his name was Nicholas, and we were we were just as excited, and the same thing happened. So I totally understand that. And yeah, I mean, it's hard, definitely. I mean, from a parent's point of view, I couldn't imagine that. But, the fact that that she's okay and she's in a better place right now, you'll be able to bond and express those, feelings with your daughter as she grows, and I think that'll bring you guys together closer. That's just my opinion, but hopefully
Yeah,
that's what
yeah,
happens. Yeah.
yeah. And Isla, I mean, Isla carries her name. Her middle name is Praise, so her sister's name was Praise, and
Oh,
so
that's great.
she carries her sister's name, and
That's
yeah.
perfect. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's awesome. Wow, that was deep. When you were going through the adoption process, what was the hardest thing that you had to accomplish through the whole process? Like, what would you say was the hardest obstacle to get through?
Oh, it's funny because not funny, but when I read back through my journal and I think about all the moments when I was stressed out the most, and I just saw
Yeah,
how like God brought us through it, how I was so panicked over one thing and then it worked out, but I think the most difficult obstacle to overcome was actually when we were in Liberia and we weren't getting answers from the embassy. They were investigating our case so deeply. And Isla, I mean, she's recovering from being malnourished. She's having all these medical issues going on, and we could do nothing. And so it was just like, it's crushing as a parent because there's only so much you can do, but we couldn't get the proper care for her. So it was just fighting with them and reaching out to our local governors and congressmen and trying to just fight through all of that. And I think that's the most defeated I've ever felt in my whole life, too, is just my daughter's sitting here is, I don't know what, I mean, we lost her sister. So as you can imagine, my mind is just reeling with all the possibilities and how badly I just want to get her home and get proper medical care. And so I think that was the hardest, most difficult obstacle to overcome.
yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like it was a lot of uncertainty that, especially after, like you just said, after losing the sister, it's what would happen if something else
Yeah.
went terribly wrong, and yeah, I can see that. I can see why that would be stressful to say the least.
Yeah.
I know my adoptive mom said pretty much the same thing after the other child, something fell through, and then a new law in Russia came out at the time where all of a sudden all adoptions got paused for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, and people started getting denied. And my mom was like on the verge of just, losing it, she told me pretty much. But
Yeah.
her goal was, she was traveling to Russia, and she said, I'm going to get there, and our goal is to get you out of there as quick as possible. And she's like, the only relief I felt was when the wheels touched down in Boston, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, we're home, we made it. But
Yeah.
so I'm trying to think. So your daughter's fairly young right now. When do you think? At what age has the adopted your adoption agency? Did they kind of explain to you what age they might guess that she might begin asking questions about a little bit more about her history and where she's from?
Yeah.
Because as she gets older, in schools they talk about, for example, in science class we talked about genetics, where you get your
Mm-hmm.
traits from, and that's when they start realizing, wait, like, how am I going to answer these questions?
Right, right. Yeah, they didn't really give us like I mean, a solid like age or at what point. I mean, she kind of already is like she'll say Isla's brown, mommy's white. And so she kind of like picks up on those things already. But not so much asking questions. I think with how she's progressing, I would think probably like 5 or 6 she would start really asking a little bit more. But right now, I mean, we are surrounded with so many other adoptive families too. And so that helps. I know that she's going to have support too when that happens. And yeah, I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I know that was kind of a hard question of like what age, but
And
I'm
yeah,
just curious of what your opinion really was. I mean,
right.
I know every adopted child's different and everything,
Mm-hmm.
but I was just curious from an adopted parent's
Yeah.
point of view. Kind of it's I'm very fascinated on the information that you get, and
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
how different the experience was today compared to
Mm-hmm.
in the '90s.
Right.
It's
Right.
adoption's come a long way, I can tell. So you said that your daughter was adopted, you said almost 4 years ago?
Well, I guess it seems like, so we adopted her in, so 2020 we started the process. So I guess I was meaning that almost 4 years since we started the process as a whole.
Right.
But
Okay.
yeah, 2022 we adopted her officially. Yeah, we found out about her and her sister in the end of 2021.
Okay. So, of course, you're probably expecting this question, but I'm very curious to know what was the process like adopting a child during a pandemic?
It was terrible because it delayed so many things, and in the moment just felt like the end of the world. Because with our home study, it was really in the thick of it was during our home study, and so what should have taken like 3 months took 8, and then getting our appointment with USCIS took 6 months, and so it just the timeline got extended so much. But looking back, it was all those delays that made it to where we got matched with Isla and her sister. And so it's God's timing throughout. Like, it's undeniable. And so looking back, I'm like, oh, okay, it wasn't the end of the world, but in the moment, it always feels like the end of the world.
Right.
You just
Right.
want to get through it. And
Yeah. Did you get any medical history at all with your daughter, or no? I know you said that
No.
the information was pretty
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, just the fact that her and her sister were very malnourished, and then they provided us with their treatment plan at the orphanage. But yeah, that's all we got.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just curious about that. It seems a lot of adoptees, we don't get the privilege of knowing much medical history, which is always
Right.
tough when we go to the doctor
Yeah.
every year. And, it's a reminder when they always ask you, well, do you have any family history? And they, we always have to say, I don't know,
Yeah.
adopted. And at least it's an option on a lot of forms now. So that's
Right. That's true.
that's progress. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as your daughter gets older, what do you think is going to be the most exciting thing that you can tell her about being adopted from your point of view? Like, how are you going to phrase it? I mean, I know you already explained how she knows that she's adopted, or kind of has a sense, and she'll get a better understanding as she gets older. But are you excited to talk about it with her? Are you excited to show her the history of her country, her home country, and the food? Maybe you guys will end up cooking together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many things. I've dreamed about being a mom my entire life, and so there's so many things that I can't wait for. But then for Isla too, just letting her know that she was just 100% fully chosen, and that we wanted nothing but her and her sister, and uh, just for her to know how loved and that she was through the whole process, as well as her sister, and to just be able to honor her culture and her country as much as we can, and join in that with her. And yeah, like, travel to Liberia. I can't wait for that someday, and to hopefully be able to meet up with our family over there. And
Yeah.
yeah, just so many things. But yeah, the biggest thing is I just want her to know how she was chosen, and
Yeah.
we would not ever have it any other way.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, that's just great. When during the adoption process, did she retain her citizenship over there, or is she a dual citizen, or did she lose that part of the process?
She did, like, lose her Liberian citizenship. So I guess she loses it after a certain period of time, which I think it's, oh gosh, I can't remember. It's like a whirlwind, in your brain.
Yeah.
I think it's after like 12 months or something like that.
Okay. Do you know if she can? I mean, I know every country's different, but do you think that she'll be able to reclaim it one day to have dual citizenship? Usually by birth, she can claim it that she was born there,
Right.
and it might
Yeah.
make traveling easier for her
Right.
when you
Yeah,
guys
I
do decide
actually
to go
don't know. Her Liberian passport they set to expire very shortly after you get home, as well as the visa. And then, she has her citizenship. We have a U.S. passport for her now. And so it's kind of, I haven't actually looked into that, but I should. But that's, I'm not sure on that.
Okay, no, that's fine. I was just curious. Yeah, it's good to know. I mean, just from a travel point of view,
Right.
a lot of Russian adoptees like myself, we didn't know before the year 2000. The laws were a little different for us 90s
Yeah.
kids. We had to travel back. So Russia views all of its people born there as citizens for life, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So when we come to travel back to meet family or take a trip with our adopted parents over there, we always had to go on a Russian passport. They would deny our visas on an American passport because they'd look at it and say, birthplace Russia, and they're like, oh well, you don't need an American passport. Yeah,
Right.
so just curious. But anyway,
Yeah.
so what's have you heard any negative stories about adoption? And has this ever scared you or your husband away from it?
Yeah. I mean, we know plenty of families that have had bad experiences or a lot of hate towards their adoptions. And I mean, we've had people say just some one-off things that are just kind of like, oh, it
Yeah,
just makes you uncomfortable. But we've learned to just kind of take it with a grain of salt, because I mean, at least for me, I want to believe that everybody has a genuine heart when they're saying things, and they might not just know how to express that properly. But I mean, it is scary, but it's not something that we don't feel like we're equipped for, or that we're not ready to. I mean, we're always learning, but it's an opportunity for everybody else too. There's always opportunity to learn and to grow and to understand each other. So
yeah,
we just take it
absolutely.
in stride.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's wonderful. I have to ask, when you were over adopting your daughter, did you bring a camera? Did you take a lot of photos?
Yeah.
I
Yep.
I figured you.
So many. And I'm that person that I I don't like keeping them all on my phone, so I make photo books of every
Yep.
trip that we take. So I have this huge photo book of all of the pictures from Liberia, and there's probably thousands. Just,
Wow.
I mean, it's like
She's gonna love you so much for everything you've done.
like you don't want to miss an opportunity, and just like I don't know. And then videos too. That's why we started like putting videos on TikTok, was because my phone was just so overloaded with videos that I ran out of space. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what to do with all of these, but I'm such a sentimental person that I don't want to get rid of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I had to figure something out.
Do you foresee yourself ever becoming an author?
That's really funny that you say that, because I just had somebody ask me that this morning.
Wow.
I don't know. I mean, I think maybe, but I used to love to write stories a lot. I have a whole like case of my own like short stories from
Yeah.
growing up. But I like writing and I love books, but maybe, I don't know. Right now, probably not, but who knows what the
One
future holds.
one day.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Amanda, thank you so much for taking the time to come and join us tonight and talk about your daughter and the whole
Thank you.
process. It was very, very heartwarming for me, and I'm sure for all the listeners, to know how much effort you really put in as an adoptive mother to show the importance of the early stages of her life. And she really is going to be so grateful. And I promise you that, like, you can hold me to that. A lot of adoptees, weren't as lucky. I know that, to have as much information that you do already, and it's just amazing. So my last question for you is, what advice would you like to pass on to our listeners today from Amanda from Idaho?
um there's never going to be a perfect time, so you just, I mean, if it's something that you're considering adoption, or it's never a perfect time. Just go for it. And it's a beautiful and redeeming process. and to journal. That was the best advice that I had ever gotten, was to journal through the whole thing. And I'm a terrible journaler, but it was worth every second.
Yeah.
So
that's some good advice, and definitely writing everything down and documenting everything is going to go a long way. So we appreciate it so much. Thank you so much again for stopping by. If anything changes, we'll see you very soon, of course. So it's been a pleasure. To all of our listeners, thank you so much. Folks, we're going to be airing this episode shortly. Stay tuned at voiceofadoptees.com. You can always come join us on the show. We're happy to have you. Thank you so much, and have a great evening, and we will see you next episode. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Voice of Adoptees. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave a review. See you next time.